strongest of the strange, drunk on Sunday morning. Some things never change. Stop trying to make things matter.
Hello there, and welcome to the JasonLand Podcast. This is the very first podcast that I've done. Included in today's show is myself, Garin Hyde, Zach Evington, and Wesley Forbus. Just a brief introduction. I currently live in North Carolina. I see a lot of really interesting things happening in my state, but I don't see a lot of people reporting on them. And I feel that someone needs to be doing that, and I'm more than welcome to take up the responsibilities. In this first podcast, we talk about a lot of different topics. They range from beer to zombies to trying to find a way to breathe life back into a sterile downtown scene. We all live in Gastonia, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte, and we all really want to see the downtown area become something new, something to breathe new life back into our hometown. And we bring up some interesting topics relating to that and other subjects. There's some language and whatnot. If you're offended by that, you have been warned. A very special thanks to Jordy Smith and Johnny Bird of the Bearded Brewers. They supplied us some very good craft beer, very, very localized, very unprocessed brew. There's a lot of really good startup breweries coming out of this state as well, and it's always good to be able to support those people. So without too much more of an introduction, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy. First podcast. Hi, Garin. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Tell me a little about yourself. Actually, like we all kind of know each other briefly.
Wait, are we recording now?
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay, cool.
Are you from Gastonia?
I'm originally from Gastonia.
Okay. You don't have much of an accent. That's why I asked.
Wait till I get drunk. It comes out. Yeah, there's born and raised. Actually, Stanley is where the roots have been planted. But yeah, when I was probably about 4 or 5, came to Gastonia. Actually lived quite a few different places. Went out to Carlsbad area, right outside of San Diego, California, for a little while.
Been there.
Expensive as hell.
Caverns.
I lasted maybe 2 weeks and just ended up getting broke. But other than that, went down to Florida for a little bit, Kentucky, and then came back home. Decided to settle the roots back in, go back to college, and get a degree. You got a second degree.
You got a few degrees from Gaston College.
2 degrees. Well, actually, no, 1 degree. 1 degree's from Asheville.
Oh, you went to UNCA?
Basic education degree from there. And then I went back to Gaston and got a broadcast and video production degree from there. So that was a lot longer than I thought it would be. They said I could get the degree in a year and a half, and ended up staying there 2.5 years. And they changed degree schedules on me, and I was part of an old program, and half the classes I took didn't count anymore, and it was a huge clusterfuck. But what ended up happening was I ended up going through and making those classes count, and they paid for the classes that didn't to go towards my degree.
And so what made you want to go for a degree in broadcasting?
Well, listen to this voice.
Exactly.
No. I really wanted to know more about how TV worked. I've always been behind a camera since I'm 32 now, since I was probably about 18 years old. And I really wanted to learn how a studio worked. I really wanted to learn how a recording session really panned out, and how that really played into, the actual community that is, broadcasting. There's lots of work in broadcasting, but you have to be really good at what you do. The only way to get good at what you do is to learn more about it. Yeah. And Gaston offered the cheapest way for me to at least get my feet wet and then go from there.
So how recently did you finish this degree?
How soon?
Yeah, when did you graduate with it?
I graduated this past spring.
When you were in college, did they seem to acknowledge a lot of the fact of how you can pretty much start your own production online using
most of the students there were already doing their own thing.
Okay.
Which was awesome, because you had kids there that were half my age that knew twice as much as I did, which really helped me through college. But then again, I had a lot of experience, and I had a lot of seasoned experience in actually video work, whereas they were more along the lines of radio and podcasting and knowing the technical aspect of the internet game is what I call it. Because really you have to really market yourself to be heard. Yeah. Because everybody's doing it now. Everyone's doing it.
It's like, and because everyone's doing it, it's like, I think the key to standing out is just giving honest, quality content.
Exactly.
And, yeah. Exactly. So I know you and Zach, who is joining us today, quietly in the background. I know you're wanting to work on.
Hey Zach, how's it going?
Hey Zach. Good. How are you? So I know you work with the indie, which I'm actually not too familiar with. I haven't really seen too much of their work, but I do know that you yourself want to do film as well around here. So what kind of films are you planning on working on?
Well, I've done a lot of my own film over the years. I started doing really horrible horror films. Of course, I think everyone starts off that way, doing really cheesy, bad, just nasty, let's see what we can use to make guts out of kind of film, horror films. And looking back at those, yes, the acting was subpar and the film quality was just ridiculous, because that's when we were using DV tapes and borrowed equipment. And I think the first film I actually did involved editing onto VHS cassette readers and going back and forth and dubbing over the VHSs back and forth.
What year was this?
It was the most asinine thing I've ever done in my entire life. But looking back at that, I say, wow, the stuff that I did back in the day and compared to the stuff that I'm doing now digitally is just so much better.
What year were you doing this VHS?
Oh, this was editing? Probably 97.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 96 or 97. So
now everything's...
I'm old as hell. I'm old as hell.
Well, you've seen like how it used to be involving, you had to go rent the equipment, rent the locations, but now with like everything being saved to SD cards, it's just a matter of like plopping them into a laptop.
Exactly.
And that's sort of, because it's so cheap to do now, it's more efficient, it takes less time, and it's sort of, the technology is to a point where it's easy and allows you to be more creative. You can spend more time like concentrating on like the scene and the writing than you do like
that's the key.
Burning tape.
That's the key. You can concentrate on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Not with what you have, or worrying about what you're working with. Yeah. I know the thing that really appealed to me about getting into, and more importantly, what appealed to me getting into DSLR filmmaking, digital filmmaking, was the fact of I can film as much as I want, as long as I want. Yeah. Get rid of what I want on the spot, and be able to just pump that through my PC, edit together something pretty good in a short amount of time. If I want to take my time, a few days, and then from there give a good product out. I remember auditioning for an intern position, and yes, it was an audition for the Charlotte Film Community, which is a great group, by the way, that helps actors and filmmakers of all kinds get their foot in the door and be able to really push towards a career that they may not otherwise know how to get into. And this is a good group, and they meet once a month and there's usually the meetings consist of anywhere from 50 to 100 people, and of all walks of life. They've done all types of work, traveled all around the world, and it's a good way to meet and greet with people that are in the industry, just now trying to get into the industry and learn the industry. And that's something too that I've learned when it comes to filmmaking. You really just use what you got, and if you're good at what you do, it shows. Better equipment makes better film, but in all intents and purposes, it just really doesn't matter as long as you're good at what you do. And that's true of anything. Music doesn't matter if you pick up an instrument that's falling apart and you can still make it sound pretty good. Yeah, it's all based on your talent. And the only way to get more talented is to just keep doing it and keep learning, and actually put those years and years and years of knowledge that you've messed up and, excuse my French, just fucked up over and over and over again, and actually apply it to something amazing. That's all it really takes. That's with anything. Film, photography, music, art. It just takes screwing it up over and over again until you finally just, light bulb moment, and then you figure it out.
I was shooting something recently, and the lens I had on my camera wasn't wide
The
enough.
iPhones are awesome. First of all,
I was like,
the
wow.
iPhones are incredible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect aperture. There we go.
Yeah, they're incredible.
And
And
these
they
don't
make
fit
the
in.
attachable lenses for the iPhone,
Yeah.
which blows my freaking mind. It makes me want to get an iPhone, and then I remember, oh, that's right, Apple sucks. And then, sorry, I did say that out loud. No, Apple's so proprietary that it's like you have to buy an Apple thing to work with this Apple thing, and then those two things need this other Apple thing. I'm a simple PC guy. I've always been. I probably always will be, unless the company I'm working for shoves an apple in my face, and I'll be like, "Hey, okay, I think I'll take it." I've realized though that the simplest of the iPhone. What is it? iPhone 8 now? What is it? I don't. 5.
S. 5, and they have 5C, which is some plastic case or something.
5SC P9er.
5 is all you really need.
The iPhones have just the picture quality. Let's take apart the fact that it's a calculator phone, web browser, I could list probably 10,000 other things that it does, but the fact that it just takes high quality and very good quality photos with just a simple ease of, and it's got amazing built-in image stabilization, and the video is phenomenal.
It's what got me into photography, my phone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've seen some of your photography, and it's great. The stuff you've been posting, just local stuff.
Phone.
Just buildings and people walking down sidewalks and things like that. It's phenomenal work. It amazes me how simple iPhone has made it. Yeah. To be able to just pull up your phone, and the iris is just already set, and it pulls in shadows where it needs to, and it's like you don't really have to think too much. You just, if you see something you need to capture and you don't want to keep, you pull it out, take a photo, you're done.
One thing that cell phones has brought about is a completely different perspective on photography in general. Like, before, when it was like basic film, you had 30 shots and you had to think about composure and you had to really plan it out. But now it's just take and delete what you want.
Exactly.
It's like make as much content as you damn well please, then just whatever's left over is what you keep.
Which is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It takes the art. Well, it doesn't completely take the art out of it, but it takes a good bit of the art out of it. Because before you were limited. You were limited with what you had and what you had to use. But now it's all digital.
It's forever.
Yeah.
But that's the weirdest part is if you make a 10-minute video for like a YouTube thing, if you take like an hour's worth of stuff and you end up just trashing all that, it's almost like, well, should I be trashing all of it? Like, I've been able to capture this moment in time, but I've been able to capture so much of it because of technology, but 90% of it's going down the toilet. And it's really like...
That kind of saddens me a little bit, though.
10 years ago, it's totally different.
Because I've looked through shots that I probably would have deleted right on site, when I was working, and said, "Oh, that's crap," and deleted it. Some of the stuff I don't delete. I'm getting more to the. I'm trying to. In the photo shoots I do, modeling, family, whatever it may be, weddings. I'm getting away, especially the stuff I'm doing for other people, large groups of people, weddings, families, that kind of thing. I'm getting away from trying to look too much into the overall photo and deleting it right away just because it's a little out of focus or things like that. When in actuality, I go back and look at it on a larger screen, like my TV, and be able to see some things within that photo that is just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. That I missed and that you can't see on a tiny 2-inch screen, 2 or 3-inch screen.
Sometimes things, they'll look and focus on those low-res LCD screens, but when you blow them up, they're out of focus, or the opposite as well.
Exactly. And most of the image may be out of focus except for that child in the bottom corner that I actually did focus on. Yeah. That was actually perfectly still, which rarely happens.
And because external hard drives are so cheap now, part of me is just like all the footage I'm not going to use, I just want to keep it because I think you have this feeling that eventually one day you'll want to go back and just review it for memories.
Which I do. Yeah. Which I do. I feel, and by the way, there is 4 of us sitting in this room. All of us are musicians. All of us should know this. Whenever you get to the point where, this is really kind of, well, I think about this a lot just because I'm constantly surrounded by art, and I love that. Working down at Zoe's, doing the photography that I do, being around music constantly, being surrounded by friends that are musicians, which is just amazing. Good musicians too. It's forced me to learn one thing, and that is always go back and listen to the things and watch the things and view the things that you've done before years past. That's the only way that you become better at what you do. And really dissect yourself. Not too much, but just listen to the stuff that you did 3, 4, 5 years ago.
It's nice to see how things have changed.
And how you've progressed into what you are now.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you get better is that, well, first of all, playing with other likewise or working with other likewise minds, but at the same time, looking at what you've already done and where you've grown from there. That's the only way you're going to get better at anything.
That's why I'm so obsessed with like documenting just what we do, and the more we do, the more I'll document. Just because as time progresses, you obviously change and you forget who you used to be.
Right.
And it's really nice to go back and look like who you used to be and who you've progressed to now. Just to give you like a perspective on what's changed and what continues to.
And if it doesn't, if it's not giving you any sort of perspective, if it's not triggering anything for you, then you're not doing something right.
Yeah.
Going back to the conversation I was talking about just a minute ago about making mistakes and about learning from those mistakes. If you're not learning anything, if you feel stagnant in what you're doing, you're not doing something right.
Yeah.
And you got to change. You got to change it. You have to change it, or you're going to continue beating your head up against a brick wall for no reason whatsoever.
Definitely.
When you could be walking through doors. So
Stagnation is the worst of feelings. This is like
we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there. And the most frustrating part about all of it is that we sometimes force ourselves to stay in that rut.
Yeah.
Because we're like, oh, something beautiful will come from this. No, nothing fucking beautiful will come from that. You have to step back, turn around, and take another path.
Yeah.
Especially if you feel stuck.
Yeah.
There's no reason to stay there because, eventually the wall will break and eventually I'll see the light or whatever it may be. No, you won't. Turn a little bit, take a different look or a different view on what you're doing, and realize that everything, no matter how well it's turning out for you guys, everything must change. Everything's got to change.
Transience.
To make it better.
And in my case, like recently I was forced out of a job, but it took someone putting the boot.
We talked about this earlier.
Yeah, it took the boot to my ass to get new perspective going. Because I was really just kind of like locked in, and I had these ideas, but I don't think I would have ever pursued them until somebody came in. Like,
for a fact you wouldn't have pursued them.
Yeah, you just had to have been like some outside force.
Kicked on your ass out in the cold.
Objectivity.
It's really convenient, actually, to have life kind of just like make the decision for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you. Because, honestly, a lot of people will not pick themselves up and say, you know what, I think I'm going to do something I've been wanting to do for a while.
Yeah, it just takes
I better get that job at McDonald's with my master's degree.
Yeah.
Something we talked about earlier as well. How people are just kind of okay with finding the job that's going to fill the necessity from right now. That's okay. I know you have to pay bills. I know you have to get that taken care of. That's a given. Why do you continuously stay in that rut?
I've got some friends that still kind of do that, and I don't know why. Because they could do so much more. And if you're trying to improve yourself, you may try to like not do it in like a harsh way, but just through the back doors, just kind of like encouraging those people to maybe make changes in their own lives. But sometimes they like that energy, sometimes they just kind of just completely ignore it. But if they're your friends, you still try to do it just because
most people do, and most of the time, being a friend to those kind of people, you don't really know what to do, other than just say, you know what, get back out there, do your best.
Yeah.
Whereas the past year of my life, and this man standing right next to me, one of my best friends, Wes, he knows for a fact this past year of my life has been a complete and utter 180. And I've realized the only way for me to obtain something, and honestly, I think, a little bit of rubbed off to him. Because the only way to really obtain what you want is to fucking chase it.
Yeah.
And tackle it to the ground and suffocate it. That's the only way to get it done. And since then, he's taken, honestly, I'm going to say this live right now. He's taken over the Menders, which is a fantastic local group, and made it into something to where they're playing shows nonstop now. They have a demo in the works ready to come out. They are on the roll and on the road to something really, really cool. And that's what it takes. It takes setting certain things aside and saying, you know what, do I want this enough? Do I want this? Do I want this?
Chasing your
really?
passion.
Is it a passion? Because if it's not, just continue piddling your basement and work that 9-to-5 job that you hate. If it's something that you truly do want and you're passionate about it, what's it really going to hurt chasing after it?
I've been writing recently about how a lot of the jobs that we take for granted are on their way to being done by either machines or automated systems, and how as a human, as a society, we're on our way to one way or another being forced to pursue our passions because of I think if you had the Burger King being run by the droids, and if you press the button and the hamburger came out, I don't think people would really miss the person handing you the burger.
No.
It was just funny to mention that because right now they're trying to argue for a $15 minimum wage for fast food workers. But I feel sorry for the people because they don't even see how their job's not going to exist in 10 years.
I'm making slightly, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, I'm making slightly under minimum wage. I do make tips where I work, but I'm making slightly under minimum wage to serve. Let's just make it apparent. I'm serving slightly complicated drinks. I'm a bartender. I'm a barista. I'm a cook. I'm a chef. And sometimes I'm even a host for music events. That's something that, granted, I've worked fast food. It doesn't take much to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
It's really cut and dry, and there's even like cartoon diagrams of what you should do, to make the certain sandwich. To raise a minimum wage that high, granted, yes, we did talk earlier about the distribution of wealth and where it lies and where we think it lies and how we're horribly mistaken of where it lies, and how we are actually the poor to middle class, even going beyond the middle class, higher middle class, is completely and utterly screwed. And yes, we should be earning more money for the certain jobs that we are doing.
Yeah.
Fast food, nah, not so much. And I hate to say this, but machines could be doing those jobs.
And so what's eventually going to happen is because there's going to be a point in time where it's just cheaper to employ like C-3PO. And I don't think like bars will ever have like robots running. That's actually one of the few places where it's a food industry kind of things, but what really makes it happen is the personalities that are the bartenders.
Exactly.
But I've just been thinking about, what do you do when a society comes to a point where everyone has to follow what it is that they wanted to do in the first place but have been scared to do it? What does that become?
I watch so many sci-fi films, I watch so many sci-fi films that are allocated to robots doing the majority of the work in America, or whatever quote-unquote world the film is set in. Everything's automated, everything is push button, most everything is voice activated in these films. You want it, it's there. Star Trek does that. Star Trek does and I call myself a nerd.
The thing that makes the things appear out of thin air?
The box in the wall, you order anything you want, it comes out. And
Starts with an E, I think.
wow, I feel horrible right now. Anyway, let's move along because I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes trying to figure this out. But basically, you walk up to the monitor, you talk into it, and you have an Earl Grey, or you walk in and talk to it, and you have a delicious meal set from another planet.
It's coming.
It's coming. And maybe not digitizing the image and then making that a reality, but at the same time, we need to be forced to apply our unique vision and our human nature to things that can be applied to making money, first of all. Second of all, let's jump on that for a second. Beer brewing. Something we've been doing tonight. We've all been drinking some local brew, which is phenomenal. It is phenomenal beer.
What was the brewery we were drinking from tonight?
The Bearded Brewers, actually.
Bearded Brewers.
Which you need to know about. And two of the head brewers is Jordy Smith and your cousin.
Johnny Bird.
Two guys that know exactly what the hell they're doing and make a damn good glass of ale. And that's something, too, that I'm going to wrap it all up by saying this because I'm really worried. I'm just not a father. I need to get to the point where we all need to get to the point as just a civilization where we understand that the simple thing that's in this glass right now in front of me that I'm drinking on and I'm enjoying is where we started. And slowly but surely I see it coming back to this. I see it coming back to the arts.
Quality
Over quantity.
So
Exactly.
with this whole downtown thing, what it boils down to is a desire for quality. Like, you come to a bar to get quality service. And as things become more and more automated, it becomes a thing about trying to find ways that people can have jobs where they're doing the one thing that machines can't do, which is make quality products, quality services, quality. But I don't know how millions upon millions of people end up with some form of a job involving quality. Because, I mean, there's a certain amount of population that is able to comprehend that. And there's a certain group of the population that you can train to learn how to make things of quality. But I don't have an answer for everybody. Like, one option is that eventually we start to essentially give people a living salary. Like, a certain amount of money that they live off of, it gets cycled back into the economy and it gets used to pay for the most basic of resources.
What is the basic definition of socialism?
What is the basic definition?
Is it everyone working towards a common goal and being paid equally,
As in
or all their needs are met?
Marxism,
Because I'm such a nerd. Going back to the Star Trek way of living, everyone works towards a common goal. Everyone's needs are met, and needs and wants are met, but they are constantly working towards a common goal: exploration, the cure for this, expanding, knowledge, expanding human evolution. And it blows my mind that, first of all, whenever they scratched the whole NASA project, I cried. That was one of the very few things that we had left where we were, yes, there was a lot of money being pumped into it, but we're using everything that we have here up.
Yeah.
And then, okay, that's big scale. Let's bring it back down to downtown here. Let's bring it downtown Gastonia. We're leaving things to rot.
Yeah.
When they could be used,
These buildings, man.
more than being used, they can be utilized. And there's so many places around here that are just gorgeous buildings.
I hear the buildings
Absolutely.
screaming, "Someone, please take me over and turn me into
This is one of the
business."
prettiest main streets I've seen in a long time.
This is
And-
Wes, by the way.
This is, by the way.
Hey,
Hi,
Wes, how you
hey
doing?
guys. It's one of the most beautiful architecturally and placement of buildings, and it's just a gorgeous main street. And there's so much potential there. There's so much potential. Problem is, you need the right people in the right places. You need in the city council and the county commissioners,
Which is a joke.
which has been a joke for the last 20, 30 years, because they don't, pardon my French, give a shit about this downtown.
It's a very institutionalized
Franklin Square,
system.
they get more money out of bringing big business into Franklin Square than they could get from down here, but that they can get quickly with the least effort.
And Wes, it all goes back to what we just talked about. It's searching for the quality of the quantity. Whenever
Absolutely.
the American superism is,
Yep.
America, how much stuff can we make and how much can we pump it out?
Yeah. We gotta change, man. I think that's the only way this country will find a foothold in the 21st century economy is to bring it full circle and start making quality shit. That's it.
Because
That's the only
that's
way.
exactly what we're missing right now. We're
Yeah.
missing the charm, the love, and the effort put into what we're doing.
There are people that want to come downtown. and
what has this podcast turned into?
And want to
we're on the way to
it did.
an evolution.
Sorry, I started talking. What do you want?
I said evolution. I meant revolution. I've been drinking.
You know, there are people that want to make this downtown. Like my wife and I moved here from Winston, a beautiful place, and a place that has seen that economic growth, that revitalization of downtown. We moved here, and this is home for me now, and I want that for this place. And all it takes is the right people backing the right people and the right incentives to bring the people downtown. That's it. It's a very simple equation.
And not to plug, but also to plug, Zoe's Coffee House has really started to get the train at least pushed in the right direction.
It's
slow.
It's the most
slow.
solidified business here.
It really is.
It really is.
Don't get me wrong. I love Amber, and I love everything that she's doing for Freeman's. She's holding that place together.
Absolutely.
She is the most fantastic bartender and person that I know. Some of the surrounding bars and restaurants, they're doing what they can to stay alive and doing what they can to keep business flowing through.
By a thread.
By a thread. But what we need is more passion. We need quality pumped back into this place. We need some kind of, what's the term? I'm really trying to search for words at this point. Help me out.
I'm optimistic that these things will actually come true, because the next 100 years of the United States boils down to a re-centralization of local creation.
Absolutely.
And how every community comes together, finds ways to make the old factories that used to make certain products that are no longer made here, make new products. What those products are, I don't know. But it's an idea that's occurring right now in other parts of the country and will continue to. And the reason it's on a local level is because federal politics are incredibly gridlocked. State level politics are slightly less gridlocked, but still gridlocked. Local level politics are slightly less gridlocked from state, but still it's politics. It's a two-party system, which hopefully this is the end of that sort of era as well. Knock on
One can
table.
What happened?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a person that works for an industrial sewing thread manufacturer, one of the few thread manufacturers that still exists in Gaston County, which at one time there were 300.
Wow.
In Gaston County.
Craziness.
That's what Gaston County was built on.
Textile industry.
Textile industry.
Post-Depression era textile industry.
Absolutely. Thing is, with the I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. My bad. With the amount that workers are having to be paid in China and India, with that rate going up, that's why we went overseas. That's why things were outsourced.
Yeah.
With that going up, things are starting to actually, manufacturing is starting to come back to the U.S. because it doesn't make any sense for U.S. companies that still have their corporate offices here, if their incentive is to manufacture overseas, it no longer makes sense financially to manufacture overseas. It's starting to come back slowly, mind you, but it is coming back. And I'm hoping that's a trend that's going to continue. I hate to wish bad things on foreign economies, but I'm glad their rate of pay is going up. They should be, because they get paid near to nothing to do very strenuous jobs.
We had a discussion. Before we started this podcast about, first of all, how bad that cough is.
I know.
We need to find a way to get rid of that. Seriously.
I'm good.
Good? You're good?
Yeah, I need some Obamacare in my life. Coming soon.
Don't we all? Yeah.
You've got till December 22nd to
Yeah.
apply.
We've discussed this, and I'm sure we've talked about this with numerous people over the years. Here more recently, probably within the past 6 months or so. about how things are coming back around slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely.
That's the main key that we're focusing on here, slowly but surely. I think we should maybe try to find a way to make that quickly but surely.
I think you're right.
There has to be a way, and I think the only way to do that is to start a revolution. I think we need to find like-minded individuals, most of those probably being artists, and local business owners. My father being one of them. He has created and made a name for himself as the computer guy here in Gastonia. One of the most trustworthy, hardworking individuals I've ever met in my entire life, and he has kept a business running for over a decade. 12 to 13 years, actually, to be exact. Very small, and working for some very, very large companies, under the sheets, of course. It's something that he doesn't pride himself in that, but he says, if you want a fair product and you want it done well, then you're going to have to go to someone that really cares about you as a person. If you want something done right, then it's not going to be cheap. If you want what's the saying? If you want something done quickly or fast and well done, it's not going to be cheap. If you want something cheap, it's not going to be. There's this long explanation of it, but essentially, what he's worked by a very simple rule, and that's give someone something give something to a person that is quality product. It may take a few extra days, but give them a quality product they're going to enjoy and they're going to remember.
They're
and they're going to come back.
Yeah.
They're going to come back, and they're going to be happy about coming back, not because you're the only place in town.
Yeah.
Or because it's easier because there's one of you here and one of you across town and one of you right around the corner from the house.
Yeah.
I don't mind traveling to Charlotte if it's for a place that I know that I'm treated well and I know that I'm going to get a quality product. I don't mind dealing with these companies, and I'm using the wrong term there because I'm not dealing with small businesses. I enjoy using small businesses because I feel like they give me something that Walmart and big chain companies don't give me, and that's a smile and knowledge of what they're trying to sell me. I walked into Best Buy the other day. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I needed to look at some camera equipment. And I knew inside my brain I was going to order it online. I get a much better price online.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's, it's ridiculous
Black
to do
Friday
that.
deals.
Now, if there was a local business that sold camera gear, I would be in that place almost every other day.
Yeah, like I'm kind of shopping around for some camera equipment as well, and I wish I could just walk into a camera store. And
I remember Wolf Camera. I remember Big's Camera used to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even still in Charlotte. I haven't heard anything from it, but crickets from that business for a while. Long story short, I walked into Best Buy, asked probably 5 different employees there about the camera gear that was working around that area.
Yeah, poor camera guy. I know the same guy.
Not one person could tell me the differences between 2 or 3 lenses.
Yeah.
Not this one girl didn't even know what the lenses, what brand the lenses were, and they were right smack in front of her. I could have easily said, yes, those are Canon, those are Nikon, that's whatever it may be. It's right there in front of me. I could definitely tell you that. But I wanted to kind of see what she thought and see if she can give me her opinion on the lenses. I couldn't even get an answer out of her. I couldn't even get an answer out of 5 different employees, or a true answer or a right answer. And it wasn't me trying to be condescending, trying to be a dickhead about it. It was me trying to figure out exactly how Best Buy is doing better than this little tiny computer, or TV repair place that's down the street that sells TVs and radios, because it's not flashy, because it has a huge logo on the front of the building, and because there's not marketing money being pumped into it left and right by corporate.
Everything I learned when I worked in retail about any product I ever sold, I had to do it on my own. I was never really told about anything. I used to work for Best Buy for a really short amount of time. But you really are just sort of like a figurine. You really are. But I think if you gave people the option of someone who knew what they were talking about, they would gladly go there.
When I first started Zoe's, when I walked into the place looking for work, I'd never been there before. And I only heard about it. I knew they were brand new. I knew they were just trying to make a name for themselves. They were hopefully wanting to not close their doors in 6 months. And when I walked into the door, I felt at home. I felt like I wasn't walking into a business. I felt like I was walking into comfort. And immediately, I mean, they were a little bit busy, but immediately walking into the place, I got a smile. Hey, how you doing? How's your day going so far? Wait, what? They're wanting to know how's my day going? And
Starbucks is never going to offer.
now, granted, there's people out there that are very lonely people, and they're going to talk your ear off. But of course, I'm not one of those people. I really am lonely. But I'm really not. I'm really not.
Ladies.
Well, you know, ladies.
Call me.
There's something I learned very quickly walking into Zoe's, and that is you're immediately presented with warmth and comfort and general. Here again, I'm searching for words. I'm trying to make myself sound smarter than I really am. I was greeted with something that you don't get walking into Best Buy. You don't get walking into a Starbucks. You get a quick, pumped out, cheap version of something that is in a fancy cup and has a bow around it. And I actually was able to see my product being made. And see people, and this is another thing that pisses me off. I'm going to say it. I'm making. There's day in and day out where I see that my employees make complicated drinks and make complicated sandwiches for people, and they reach in their pocket and they get the change back, and they have $15, $16 in change being handed back to them, sometimes in ones, and they look at a tip jar and they walk away with all that cash in their hands, and they don't realize that these employees are busting their asses for tips.
I don't get why people don't tip. Like,
I don't understand either. Do you go out to eat?
Like,
I'm not saying this. This is a rhetorical question. But do you go out to eat and expect them to cook the food for you, bring the food to you, keep serving you drinks?
so weird.
If you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out and eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Period.
He's very, very simply put, and that's exactly the way it blows my mind. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But people continuously do it. I worked, and this is throwing some personal information out there, but I leave a little bit for Anthony. I worked for.
You might want to just say, well,
I worked for many, many restaurants over the years. One of those being Ro's Barbecue. That was purely tip based.
Yeah.
It was you were being paid $2 and something an hour.
I've heard a lot of
There you
drama
go.
about them.
Get you a Bud Light.
Ooh.
Get you a Bud Light there, buddy.
Dish it out.
Get you a tall can.
Who are you?
Delish.
Exactly.
I don't want to go on a tangent. I just heard some sketchy things about ROs.
This is that game.
Now that you brought that up.
I worked for ROs before they went huge with their slaw. So it was back when just they had the restaurant, and all I was doing was curb hopping. Back when they made quality products, and before they went semi-corporate and started pumping their stuff out everywhere. Since then, there's been some sketchy stuff going on with that company. So you're not the only one that's heard that stuff before. Trust me. I've been there, done that. I've heard it before.
What details do you have?
Yes. Give us one detail.
Oh, with the dirt.
Well, the one I noticed without even anyone saying anything is that they don't hire women, which is a big deal.
Yes, it is a big deal. And they've
They
never
don't?
done that. They've never done that.
And that's just kind of
Shitty? Sexist? Yeah.
Why would they do that?
because it's Gastonia, but it's the old Gastonia. It's like the Old Testament of
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of old.
To be able to go even further with that, I'll tell you exactly how I got fired from the job. All my stories start off that way. It was very simple. I was waiting on a man that pulled up in a jalopy truck, and he said, I have an order for Pickens. And I was like, this is going to be fun. Walked inside. It's 2 large boxes full of barbecue and drinks and slaw. Massive boxes of food. I don't know if it was some party or some shotgun wedding they had, but I pulled those boxes up. I just, in each arm, I was manning it and hoofing it out there. And I actually helped get everything in bags and also pour the slaws into the quart containers and pump all the drinks and get everything ready to go to take out there. Once everything was done, he said, you just put them in the back. I had to actually set the food on the tailgate of the truck, go back to his back part of his truck and move stuff out of the way, then place the food back in there. And I looked at him and I was like, sir, that's going to be $49.97. And he's like, okay. He handed me a $50 bill and he said, how about you just keep the change? To which I responded by looking at the change, looking back at him, looking down at the change, looking back up at him, said, you know what? You need this a little bit more than I do. Threw it back in his car and walked off. Needless to say, he got out of his car, raised hell, talked to the manager. I was fired on the spot. Said that we don't treat our customers that way. There's many different paths I could have taken, except for that one, of course. But I guess it comes to the point where I had a full day before that, not making hardly any tips, serving people, making sure that people were happy and getting their food on in a timely fashion.
That's totally what you were working for. I mean,
I worked for tips. I was working for $2 an hour or $2.50 an hour plus tips. That was my livelihood, was to make sure that I gave him the best service possible until he gave me that smart ass remark, and I told him to basically, go jump on a post. That's something that I realized.
That bullshit sense of entitlement some people have.
People expect a whole lot of something for nothing.
Why? What's so hard about being nice?
Well, part of it has to do with these damn cell phones. Which I can't live without.
Well,
Damn it.
I was gonna say, I know that technology is right now trying to make us a little more isolated than in times previous, but I think places like Zoe's or even podcasts show that the human need for socialization and being close to each other will always outweigh the sort of quick, instantaneous isolation that's kind of preached. That's why I think places like Zoe's are important and why they prosper. Is I spent the first half of my day here just writing. I could have wrote at home, but I don't want to write at home. I spend time at home all the time. I want to go somewhere different.
Exactly.
There's people.
Get out.
Meet new people. Network.
There's something to say about
that's key. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's key. That's what he brought up earlier. That's what we need to focus on, is that magical N word. Bringing life back into downtown. She's been trying her best to, for instance, just for simple fact, she is having her retirement party at Zoe's. And Zoe's is going to be filled with lawyers and executives
who
DSS
work
workers
downtown.
Who work 2 streets over.
Yeah.
Something that Zoe's has also done too, that we're going to be pumping out in the next week or two, are to-go menus. And we're going to be walking up and down Broad Street here, where all these main, huge, large businesses are, like, I don't know, the Gaston County Courthouse, and the police department and DSS and the courthouse and everything down through Broad Street here, which is just 2 streets over, and being able to spread our name even more to people that don't even really know that we exist yet, because all they think about is downtown is a vacancy, a pub, and a Mexican restaurant.
But we have to.
An art gallery.
Full disclosure, Freeman's Pub did recently end up in a major blockbuster film, Bad Grandpa.
Yeah.
True story.
There's no way around the fact that one way or the other, even though it wasn't called Gastonia, recently Gastonia found its way into a major motion picture.
we were being
And
made fun of.
But we were making fun of.
Right, but Freeman's sign was in that film.
It was there.
I don't know if you know this, but the motel that's right off of Franklin Boulevard, right there at the graveyard.
Fun place.
Was the motel right across
the Motor Inn.
The Motor Inn?
The Motor
That was
Inn
in Talladega
Lodge.
Nights,
Yep.
which is a welfare movie, which is another comedy as well.
Okay.
Poking fun at it probably.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes,
It's a start.
North Carolina in general, Wilmington being the hub for one of the largest sound stages in America, screen gyms, North Carolina has made a name for itself already as being a very
Don't they call it
artistic.
Hollywood East?
They do call it Hollywood East.
When North Carolina legislation has tried to pull those incentives, back to the incentives.
Yeah.
North Carolina legislation has tried to pull those incentives from keep bringing them here? Why would you pull
I have no idea.
money away from bringing multi-million-dollar, maybe even billion, I don't know, dollar business to the state?
Oh, it's the type of business that it brings.
Screw
Whatever.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
It's supporting
excuses.
jobs.
It's excuses.
It's supporting jobs, and it's bringing money into our economy. I'm sorry. Where is the bad side of this? I'm confused.
As soon as the Southern Collective of States drop this 1920 sense of morality, everything is going to be all
Thank you,
right.
Jason. Thank you, Jason.
But it's gotta, and for the people in this room right now, none of us have any sort of tie to that concept. We just want to not have.
Except for the clothes. The clothes are brilliant.
The clothes are brilliant, and the facial hair.
The facial hair.
But
That's it. The syphilis, yeah. Not so much.
They can go.
I think that, so it boils down to the fact that local level politicians can't really call the National Guard on us. So I think we'll be good. I think that one thing that we have right now that our parents didn't have in 1969 is Twitter and the ability to connect. I always wonder what would things be like if Martin Luther King had a Twitter.
Yeah.
if Malcolm X had a Twitter account. If John F. Kennedy had a Twitter account. Oh man, the mob's coming for me. Watch out, Dallas.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so because of that, we're able to connect better. Well, I think that the people in this room can help to bring people to downtown.
We're not utilizing what is right in front of us.
That's what I'm trying to change.
Most people are not, and exactly what you're trying to do.
But you're right.
People are not utilizing it.
Right in the face. It's free.
It's right in our hands every single day.
I've been working with. There's a guy that I work with, and a couple other people I work with who are trying to find jobs, and I'm trying to basically teach them how to use social networking to get a job. If everything goes all right, I will essentially have secured a job through Twitter. I hope it works out, just so I can say I got a job through Twitter.
Yeah.
Because I want to believe that it's as simple as tweeting an organization that you want to work for, finding an email address, sending a resume, setting up an interview. That's beautiful.
And not, for all intents and purposes, not difficult at all.
No.
Because it is at your fingertips. It's something that you're utilizing because you know what? A lot of people are sitting back and they're using their Facebooks and they're using their Instagrams and they're using their Twitter accounts to preach about how shitty the meatloaf was, or about how look at what grandma made, or look at my children play in the dirt. Well, that's really fantastic, and I'm glad that you have those things in your life, and it's wonderful. But we're not actually utilizing what we have. I'm guilty of that, but honestly, here lately,
I'll say that. I am too.
well, the past year of my life, I realized that I'm going to do something a little bit different with my Facebook account. I'm going to pump out my work.
Yeah.
I'm going to pump out my photography as much as I possibly can. And whatever I do post is either going to be one of two things. It's either going to be pretty funny to bring a chuckle to someone's day.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be something, and I'm not trying to say this to sound derogatory because, we all have our belief systems, but non-religious inspirational.
Yeah.
Or non-religious inspiration. Something that hits close to home, that we've all been through, that we all may need to hear during the day.
Complaining and complacency does nothing but bring around negativity.
Who wants to be around negativity? Who wants to work with negativity? Who wants to even be associated with negativity? I don't.
No.
The only thing that's going to bring positive change to just us as human beings and to this downtown and to what we need for this to actually become something that we want it to become is positivity.
Yeah.
Positivity and working together and utilizing what's right there in front of us. Everything that we've talked about up until now boils down to those three things.
And so the automation of our society, as I've been kind of bringing up, allows us to do that. If you can order your toilet paper online and have it delivered to this nice apartment, it frees up so much more time to network and to meet people and to get things done. And what I like to think is that the automation of our society allows us to talk to each other. No more time having to go to the grocery store. More time bringing us back together. There's been a period of time where technology has isolated us, but I think in the end, it will bring us all back together. And all this has happened literally since 2009.
The important part of that, though, is utilizing that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Is getting people to utilize that time.
I've seen couples sitting next to each other, across from each other in restaurants, buried in their phone.
On their cell phone.
It's happened to me. I'll admit it.
And I'm not saying that that's necessary. It can be a bad thing if you let it take hold, but because it is easy, because it's easy to be able to communicate, be able to utilize the interwebs and the information that is right there at our fingertips. We're using it for selfish things. We're using it for all intents and purposes. We're using it for things that get in the way of personal interaction. Something that we have completely lost.
Yeah.
As a society. There's a balance. There can be a balance, and
Absolutely.
I know exactly how to balance that out. It's by utilizing technology and remembering how important it is to being able to look someone in the face and look someone, more importantly, in the eyes, and actually listen to what they have to say.
Human connectivity.
So what's cool, and this is something that I always used to talk about with my roommate in college, is how we are the last generation to know what things were like before this microphone and this laptop. That's what we can bring to the next generation. I see kids like 3 and 4 years old using iPads, which is awesome because it's
Using iPads well.
Well, yeah.
well,
Better than I could.
which is
My nephew
partially
amazes me. It's ridiculous.
well, partially it's because the operating systems are to a point where the design language is very instinctive. It just makes sense on your brain.
Right.
And there's a lot of advantages to being 4 years old.
It's not an Apple green screen.
Exactly.
No.
But if it's one thing we can bring to the people who are 5 years old, because I'm only 26 years old and I'm already thinking about the next generation. We gotta bring something to remind them.
How old is everybody in this room?
Jason's 26,
Zach is 24.
Wes is 31.
And Garin is 32.
32.
So we're honestly, Zach is right at the cusp of the generation that you two are in.
Yeah.
Whereas Wes and
I just said Apple green screen. That showed my age like a champ.
I did. I totally did.
Oh, Christ.
It's something that Jason and I worry about every single day, and I see that generation and multiple generations that are under. I don't want to say under me, but that are that came after me. And I see them every single day walking in that coffee shop, and I worry so much because they are so disconnected.
Yeah.
They don't really care.
I think it will come back around.
I hope it does.
The amount of time that we've had the technologies that we have versus the amount of time that we've lived in an agricultural society versus the amount of time that we've lived in a hunter-gatherer kind of society is so much larger. This right now equates to less than 1% of human history.
Right.
All that other stuff will always come back around. I don't think we're entering into a dark age of technological isolationism. There will be elements of that.
Do you know why everyone is so involved and almost obsessed with the fact of apocalypse and zombie takeover and all these end of the world kind of situations?
Because they've unfortunately given up.
That's exactly right. But deep down inside, they want things to
They want things to change,
They want things to change.
but I almost feel like they're looking at it in the wrong way. Because instead of thinking about morphing what's already there, they think about slicing it
Right.
all. But
Bringing
there are
about anew.
things.
There's ways. There's great and simple ways to make things change, or to change things in general.
Without wiping the slate clean.
Right. Without having to chop it all up.
So
Start from scratch.
why I think that zombies are a good old metaphor is so popular right now is because a zombie is a creature that functions on its own accord and has no problem
Primal.
with anybody. Primal. It only ever has an issue when we show up and try to impose our individuality. Right now I'm picking up a copy of a game called The Last of Us. Garin, I'm giving him this copy. As you play this game, really what the game is all about is about two people making a trek from one part of the country to another. But as you play the game, you realize that you encounter all these things, all these terrible, vile monsters, but the monsters are just doing their own thing. It's only when you show up that things kind of get crazy.
Right.
And so I started watching The Walking Dead again, season 3. All I see that is now is these people who happen to have this idea of individuality versus these things that don't have any idea of individuality. But they're still doing their own thing. They're functioning. They roam. They exist.
They just hungry.
They're just hungry.
They just be hungry.
They just want to eat your face.
Exactly. They just want to eat your face. Or someone else's face that may be coming along.
Like,
But that's a great way of putting it.
you know, like
I agree.
watching the new season of The Walking Dead, it's the most depressing show I've ever watched. It's a show about what happens
It's
when...
exciting and depressing.
Exciting and depressing.
I said depression.
It's a show about what happens...
It's no word.
It's a show about trying to hold on to what makes us individuals. But every time somebody gets bit, they just carry on without that individuality. But they still exist.
Mm-hmm. And
that's a much better metaphor for it.
What's funny about the newest season of Walking Dead is I can't remember the character. It's a little girl, but she, being a child, she identifies, or not identifies, but she sees these creatures, these zombies, as people, but just in a different, not like herself, but just in a different form of people.
And she names.
And she names one of them.
So, like, it's not the best written show. In one way that I think it could be better written is every once in a while on the show, there'll be a conversation with the people who are older, who knew society before then about, well, we're bringing up kids in this new society. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to be able to function? But the characters in the show who are much younger, they don't really seem to notice any difference. And obviously, they don't know anything else, but
Right.
they're functioning just as well. Like, this is what society is. And in fact, The Last of Us kind of harkens back to that, because one of the characters is like 12, 13 years old.
Right.
And so, throughout the game,
And I'm guessing the premise of the game is that this has been like this for a little while.
I think like 20 years about.
Okay, wow.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
So a lot of while.
And so,
For a little while.
and there's all these really cool moments where the younger character is asking, like, what is this coffee shop? Explain what a coffee shop was. And the older character tries to explain. And they have no concept of it, but it's not that big a deal. They keep functioning just as well.
Right.
And I like to think of that as, like, kind of similarly with technology. You know, like, people right now who are, like, 2 and 3 years old, one day they're going to ask us, what was life like before this? And we're going to try to explain it to them. They'll never really know what it was like. They'll still function as they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that disconnect. It's that trying to remind them of what things used to be like, but
Holding on to humanity.
the depressing reality is that they'll never know.
No.
And one day we'll all die, and then it won't matter.
So be it.
Same thing happened with people who lived before light bulbs, before the railways, before the telegraph machine.
See, we still have that's the beautiful thing about it, is we still have the capacity to do all of these things. Human civilization existed long before these things. And we still have, in each of us, we still have the capacity to exist without this microphone, that laptop, that TV over there. We still have the capacity to learn these things. And I think it's important that we share those things that we still know. Like, you're talking about connecting with, in the zombie apocalypse, connecting with humanity. I think it's important that we continue to pass these things along, just from generation to generation. Because
if none of us had any idea of, like, the human element, we wouldn't be so concerned about trying to revitalize this downtown area.
You're right.
But it's like, why do we want a downtown to exist? It's because we crave a human element.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what it's all about.
I agree.
I want to say, but because I know we're probably close to wrapping up,
It's about an hour.
I want to say, first of all, this is probably one of the best conversations I've had in a while. It's good to be able to sit down with a group of guys enjoy really, really good beer, and talk about shit that actually matters. We don't get enough of that these days, and we don't really. This is gonna be a conversation that's gonna stick with me. And
That's all podcasting means.
And it's something I want to be able to bring back up soon, and to see if there's some ways that we can help make a change and help make a difference in not only just where we live, but in the people that are surrounding us on a daily basis. The only way to really better humankind is to better yourself first.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So with that being said, Jason, thank you.
Yes,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on this podcast for sure. And I'm glad Zach and Wes would be here.
Yeah,
because that's something where I was kind of hoping it would be more than just us.
Definitely.
So that we can actually get a little bit more input on certain situations.
It's something I've been considering for about 8 months, and finally
I'm glad you're doing it, man. I'm glad you're doing it.
It's a very useful tool for just cataloging.
You're a natural journalist, man.
Thanks.
You gotta do something with it, and you're finally getting a chance to do something with it, and you're strangling it. You're starting to chase it down the right way, and it's awesome. It's good to see you happy. It's good to see you doing things that you're made to be doing.
I just feel like
so bravo, dude.
Thanks.
Seriously,
Absolutely.
bravo. Yeah, it's definitely doing a good job.
we'll end with this. I got a good feeling about things, and I just feel that somebody needs to be cataloging. JasonLand Podcast #1. Thank you very much.